you ready to take your love for Spurs to the next level? Because we've got some exciting news for you. We're amping up our membership program so you can get even more of your Spurs fix. Plus, we're giving you ample opportunities to show off your Tottenham knowledge and win some epic prizes along the way.
As a Platinum member, you'll get access to exclusive shows, Q&A sessions, as well as FIFA content. You'll also have weekly chances to win We Are Tottenham TV merch in our weekly giveaways exclusively for you, our members.
But wait, there's more! We're introducing members-only giveaways during our watch-alongs, so not only can you watch the game with us, but you can also interact and win some incredible gifts along the way, talk about a win-win situation.
And if you're a die-hard Tottenham Hotspur fan, we've got something special just for you. Our frequent Spurs quizzes will test your knowledge and reward the most passionate fan with some amazing prizes. And if that's not enough, you can even be part of our weekly fan shows and have your say on everything happening at Tottenham Hotspur. It's like being in the locker room with the team. Well, not quite that, but you get the idea.
All of this epic content and exclusive benefits can be yours for just £12.99 per month. That's less than the price of a burger and a pint at the Tottenham Stadium. So don't wait, join our We Are Tottenham community today and take your love for Spurs to the next level. Trust us, you won't regret it. Come on, you Spurs.
All right, what's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Welcome back to yet another panel show for you guys today. And we have got a debutante on the panel show today. It's Adam William Cahill, joined by the returning guest of David Harris. A bit of an Irish invasion today here on We Are Tottenham TV. But Adam, welcome to the panel. How are you doing, my friend?
Cheers for having me on, lads. Yeah, I'm doing really good at the moment. A lot of good stuff going on behind the scenes. Not in the Tottenham universe, unfortunately, but I've got other things to preoccupy myself. So doing all right. How are you, lads?
Yeah, I mean, apart from football, everything's doing all right. I mean, I kind of was hoping that for the Europa League spot this season, but seeing as Arsenal got absolutely slapped up last night, 3-0 to Brighton, I'll take that as a bit of a consolation. But David, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm keeping well in general, Benji. Apart from football, I'm keeping all right. A bit raging with the Brighton result yesterday, to be fair. I wouldn't mind if it being a draw because the Europa League final is in Dublin next year. So it would have been nice to maybe have Tottenham in the competition and see if we could get there. But look, beggars can't be choosers. Arsenal losing the league, I mean, it's great. Couldn't have them win the league with us being this poor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what would you have taken? Yeah, surely you would have given up that cup final in the Aviva to see Arsenal not win the title.
Oh, 100%. It's absolutely fantastic. I'd give up my left arm to not see Arsenal win the title. It's absolutely unbearable. You know, in a way, it's kind of like in a way, it was nice to see them maybe get their hopes up then so that we could see all their tears yesterday. It was absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I'm so full today. I'm not even thirsty, Ben. I've just been drinking Arsenal tears all night. It's great.
You and me both, my friend. But we do have an action-packed panel to bring to you today. And what we're going to be talking about first is this Julian Nagelsmann news that broke over the weekend. I mean, how is anyone supposed to buy anything that comes out of the club now? I mean, what was said was that Dan Kilpatrick, other journalists were bringing out news from the club saying that Spurs do not intend to meet with Julian Nagelsmann. He is not currently a contender for the job. But only a few days before that, the news from the club saying that Spurs are confident they're unlikely to face competition for Nagelsmann. The price that Bayern Munich will be offered, that will be acquired, will not be a problem for Tottenham. So, I mean, let's start off with you, Adam. Do you buy any of this news coming out of the club saying that Nagelsmann was never in the running for the Tottenham job?
No, of course not. It would have been foolish for Tottenham not to go in for Nagelsmann. So either way, they're looking like fools. They're either looking like liars for saying that, they look because they've either gone in for Nagelsmann and then now they're saying they're not, or they didn't go in for him, which is absolutely ridiculous because why wouldn't you go in for him? He is the right guy for the job. He's young. He's a project manager. He's got the right tactics that we want to see. He's got the style that we want to see the team playing, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be foolish not to go in for him. So one way or the other, they've made themselves look like absolute fools. And but I certainly, like, going one way or the other. I'm definitely not of the belief that that they never went in for Nagelsmann. But of course, they've had the conversations, and they're just trying to make themselves look, like they weren't turned down, they weren't rejected, which of course they were. So it's incredibly disappointing, and not only for the fact that we are now not going to have Nagelsmann coming into the team, which most of us were hoping for. Not everybody, but most of us were hoping for. It also just shows that, I try my absolute best to see things from both sides, and when we've got issues with so many of the Spurs fans going after Enoch and going after Levy for all of the negatives, which there are negatives, but when you got to look at things in terms of what were the benefits of decisions made versus what were the repercussions of decisions made. I've always looked at the fact that we've got our stadium, we've got an amazing training ground, we've got a load of money coming in, that we wouldn't have had before because of those things. So I've tried to see the glass is half full, but how can you do anything other than put us in negative light on this particular situation? There is no positive to see from it whatsoever. We've got a board of owners that are lying through their teeth, and that just is a really, really bad look for the club, and it's really it's a middle finger to the fans who we want to know what's going on, and they're feeding us a load of crap, so it's just not on.
Yeah, and it's like another one on the long list of many middle fingers that they have given to the fan base over the years. David, what are you feeling on the situation? Do you echo those thoughts that Adam was saying?
100%. Look, lads, the whole thing stinks of incompetency. You take yourself back to the summer of 2021. You also done something very similar to Conte, where they had talks with Conte, and Conte was basically, we were told that the club didn't match Conte's ambition, but we were told that from the club side that Conte's demands were too high. Well, it didn't stop them paying them demands a few months later. So they kind of been that bad. But it just speaks of incompetency. At the end of the day, you got to realise Nagelsmann didn't need Tottenham. Tottenham needed Nagelsmann. So it was on Tottenham to convince this guy. This guy turned down the Chelsea job because he was not convinced by what the recruitment strategy was this summer by them and who they have in place to do it. Now, it's clear we went and had chats with Nagelsmann. In my opinion, he sort of agreed to take the job if the right recruitment strategy was put in place. I feel Tottenham have failed to do that, and that's why Nagelsmann has walked away. And I think you're going to see more of this, lads. You got to understand, managers aren't going to keep coming here and killing themselves off, by the long outstanding issues in the squad that have been neglected by the club, i.e. centre-backs. It's killed Jose Mourinho. It's killed Antonio Conte. I'd even argue it killed Nuno to a certain degree, even though he sort of killed himself. But, managers are coming here and they're dying by long outstanding issues that predate them. Nagelsmann has every single right to ask exactly what the recruitment plans are when there's glaringly obvious holes in that squad to be fixed. And that's why I'm not too confident now going into this summer window that it's going to be done, because obviously he would want, a certain degree to make sure he can compete on the pitch. And obviously we're not going to give him that. So for me, I just think it's absolute bad PR by the club. And regardless of what they came out and said, they were always going to look bad. The fans wanted two managers in here after Conte. Pochettino or Nagelsmann. Pochettino they never even reached out to. And then you've got Nagelsmann who they failed to convince to come here. So no matter what spin they put on it, it's getting to the point where people aren't buying it. They're just not buying it. They clearly had discussions with Nagelsmann. They clearly sounded him out. They didn't get the right answer. So the club tried to get ahead of it maybe before the Nagelsmann camp and put out their side of the story. But for me, I'm not convinced by it whatsoever. We've seen this time and time again of us being able to not convince the right manager, etc., to come in this door. So I do not buy it.
Sim, I mean, is it just the case of this club just continually trying to take us as fans as complete mugs, feeding us false information after false information after false information? I mean, how do they expect anyone to buy what they're trying to put out there?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms we've had with this board and the ownership is their lack of communication with the fans and their bad communication with the fans. And if they think this is the right way to go about fixing that, they've got another thing coming, because they're just taking us fans for fools if they want us to believe that not only is Nagelsmann not coming to Spurs, that he was never in contention and not considered for the role. I mean, who do they think we are? We've heard from pretty much everywhere that he's Tottenham's #1 pick. He's been the favourite choice for a long time now. Ali Gold, even in his video today, I was watching it, and he said that yes, the club have pretty much put out the news to make it known that he's not in contention. But make no mistake, there was definitely contact between Nagelsmann and Tottenham, and how that conversation went is another matter. But to say there's never been any discussions, never been any contact, and he's not in contention, not only is it stupid, not only does it is it taking us for fools to put that information, but I would even argue that it makes us look worse to say that. Like, at least if they say, look, we've had discussions and we couldn't agree a deal or whatever, they were too far apart from what everyone wanted. At least I think Spurs fans could kind of understand that a bit, because I think Tottenham fans looking at the situation can completely understand why Nagelsmann wouldn't want to come here right now because of the mess we're in, and can understand his side of the argument from that front. But for Tottenham to come out and claim that he was never in contention makes them seem so incompetent, because there's absolutely no reason why he shouldn't be in contention. He's everything Tottenham should want. He ticks every single box you would want in a new manager. There's nothing really to suggest that, apart from maybe some management issues he had at Bayern Munich, which can definitely be ironed out, there's nothing to suggest that he shouldn't be the right man for the job, or at least be talked to. Like, we're saying that we've got an interview process coming up for the job, and he's not part of that interview process. There's absolutely zero reason why he shouldn't even be part of the interview process, why he shouldn't be considered for the job. So for them to say he was never part of the equation. He was never part of the plan. I mean, how stupid do they think we are? And it makes them look worse, I think, putting that out there. So I don't know what they tried to achieve by putting out that news essentially on Friday.
The way I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to back them up or say they've done anything correct, but the way they're looking at it, do you think that it was a case of looking at how the Nagelsmann and Chelsea thing all fell apart? I mean, they didn't really see eye to eye on the way things moving forward, and maybe they're trying to create a narrative that the problem is actually here is Nagelsmann and the way he likes to do things, and it fell apart with Chelsea, so now it kind of using that as an excuse for it falling apart with Tottenham. What do you think on that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna use all the excuses that they possibly have at their disposal at the end of the day. Like, there's been so much kind of buttering over or whatever the expression is, over the cracks.
Papering over the cracks, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, well, I don't know why I went to butter, but there you go. There's cracks being filled in, that's for sure. And I just think that I've personally gotten to the stage now where I'm one of the people who have always kind of stood on the sidelines and gone, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I haven't got any particular axe to grind with ENIC, considering that there are certain aspects of the club that we're improving over time, and there are there are massive areas where we've started to fall apart. It began with not backing Poch when we had the opportunity, bringing in managers that weren't fit for purpose, all that kind of stuff. There were definite mistakes that were being made, and I was always able to sit back and go, okay, but what's the silver lining? Where were things going right on the other side of the aisle? But now, when you're looking at it with the perspective of they are taking us, for a ride, I don't see any way of kind of defending that anymore. And I've really kind of shifted massively in terms of my stance on the ownership. And I think at this point, like I'm not of the same disposition as a lot of people where they're like they've wanted ENIC out for the longest time. I think I've been perfectly within my rights to kind of stay on the fence for a good bit, but at this moment in time I'm like, okay, if this is the way that they're going to treat us as fans, it is definitely time to get on your bike. And it's I don't know how we necessarily we go about that, considering that you've got the likes of very good friends of ours who are out there doing their protests across from the stadium, and the numbers aren't what you would expect in terms of actually making a difference. I applaud them for what they're doing, but I don't know how far it's going to get. But you do hear an awful lot of chanting in the stadium. You do hear a lot of the Leave Out chanting, which is hopefully that will ruffle feathers. But I'm definitely kind of on that stage now where I'm like the degree to which we are being mistreated, from the lies to the acting like a big club and like charging us for tickets, season tickets and regular, the prices that we pay for the kits, all that kind of stuff. We're being charged as though we're a really, really big team doing really big things, and yet with their pocket, they're not doing really big things. It's kind of last straw as far as I'm concerned. Like that, I don't know what they could do this summer that would repair the level of damage that's being done at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, and David, I'm hearing obviously there was this narrative right when Conte was appointed saying that if Levy screws this up, there's not going to be anywhere for him to turn. And I'm hearing this narrative form again, like if he doesn't get this appointment right, then he's got nowhere to turn. But then we're going to get the appointment wrong, and then he's going to be like the next appointment, the next appointment, the next appointment. So when's the penny actually going to be dropping with the whole fan base here?
Look, I'll be honest, I think the penny is starting to drop with the whole fan base, if you want me to be brutally honest. I think you see more and more people getting agitated with what's going on. You get more and more people sort of getting agitated with the PR spin they put on things. Like when you look at like Nagelsmann and Pochettino, first of all, when you look at the sort of manager that they want to go down, right, it does look like there's a clear direction of the type of caliber manager they're after, which is young, hungry, fresh idea, fresh approach to sort of football. But, we've completely bypassed or the two that are the best for that, Pochettino and Nagelsmann. So you're sort of, you're going into the likes of a Rodgers, a Postecoglou, a Ruben Amorim, and Arne Slot. And look, let's be honest, if you appoint one of them, I think you're going to see a bit of a divide on any of them, to be honest. You're going to have people that are not in the new manager's camp, and you're going to have other people who say, look, give the guy a chance. I like the appointment. Let's see what can happen. But the reality is, it's not one of the best two out there that can get us out of this position we are in. And because it's not that, they're making a rod off their own back, and it's just annoying more and more people. And everything they're accused of no ambition, blah, 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 this, that, and the other, they're exactly living up to it by not contacting Pochettino and by trying to distance themselves and act like we're too good for a Nagelsmann. So they haven't got the two best people that are available, and both of them were available at the time, and it should be one of them two in the door. But here we are still sitting here, looking for a new manager. And at the time, many people said, surely we're not going to go another 72 days, like we did before we appointed Nuno. Well, we're already nearly there. And people are getting more and more frustrated with what's going on. People are asking more and more questions with what's going on. You've got a lot of players that are not good enough to be here. That should have been long gone out the door. You've got managers that have been sacked for these guys when they should never have. These guys should have been gone out the door. And we're doing everything wrong. And people are starting to ask questions in terms of management, in terms of recruitment, in terms of director of football. The questions are coming at them from all angles. This club was known as a club, especially under Pochettino, where we were everyone's second favorite team. We were being lauded for how this club was being run and the shrewd acquisitions and decisions that were being made. But since then, absolutely everything has come falling apart. The wheels have absolutely fell off, and they just keep making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And they do not want to spend the money necessary to take us out of this. Now, you do have the arguments that, look, we spent money in the past. Correct, we have, but we spent it wrongly. And right now, we can't keep living off that. Right now, this needs investment. This needs money. It needs the best manager possible. And by Tottenham sort of shirking away from the Nagelsmann and putting their spin on it, even though we know it's down to recruitment, doesn't give me any hope for the summer. So I think the fan base are waking up. And look, myself, I've been one where, I try to see things from both sides, a bit like Adam, but look, I've always had sort of gripes with the owners, maybe just not as much as everyone else. But even me, the last 4 years have become completely intolerable. I can't take it any longer. I can't take being losers. I can't take watching players go out on the football field who don't want to put in an ounce of energy, have no passion or desire to win. I can't take it anymore. I don't think anyone else out there can take it anymore. It's getting to a point where, they either put up or they're going to have to sell up. It's that simple. If you do not have the money to take this forward and the right amount of money, you're talking probably 200-300 million, because no one wants to sit here, getting 2 positions or 3 positions done this window, looking for it again in January to be told no next summer. And it's always slowly. We're at a point now where we want it now. We've waited long enough. You promised us once we got into that new stadium, it was a sign of greater things to come for us, this, that, and the other. And you failed on that promise. Fans gave you a chance while building that stadium, gave you 3 windows without no signing while building that stadium. And you have completely pissed all over that trust. And for me, I think fans are just getting fed up with it now, and they want what they're promised.
Yeah, and it's like, go on.
No, go on. I was just going to say, I just think that the statements, not the statements, but the news coming out of the club, I think it just shows how out of touch they are. Yeah. I think that's the evidence there, because they just think that we're dumb enough to believe whatever they say now. And I think a lot of people, what's interesting to me is not just a lot more, the more and more Tottenham fans speaking out about it, but it's the players. Harry Kane talking about the culture of the club, talking about they've lost their values. And I think that's definitely
Even
telling.
Ryan Mason agreed with him.
Yeah, I think that's telling to maybe that there's been a growing sense of frustration with the hierarchy, and obviously this starts with the fans. But I think a lot of people, even a lot of journalists as well, are starting to talk more and more about it than they were before. So I think there is more of a collective awakening to what the real problem is at Tottenham, and maybe that will heap more pressure on Daniel Levy, I hope.
It drives me mad though when I listen to Simon Jordan on Talk Sport. And he just backs Levy, and he even goes as far to say that the Spurs fans that are Levy out or ENIC out are unintelligent, and he actually goes in on those kind of fans. I mean, he's just trying to back up his mate every single time, isn't he? I mean, how can you justify every single wrong decision that happens from time and time again? How can you justify that?
It's for me, I struggle with this so much because I'm not it ends up getting into a kind of a political conversation, which is difficult for me because I tend to be quite moderate, but in this day and age, it's very hard to look at a lot of what's going on and not take sides. And in this particular arena, it's like you have the whole haves and have-nots situation. And when with these kinds of guys, they're so money focused, and it's like, oh, Levy's doing a really great job as far as the business is concerned. He's turned the stadium into something that's more than just about football. He's got the NFL and he's got Beyonce and all these other artists that are coming in and whatever. And it's like, yeah, financially that's great, but first and foremost, we're a football team, and he's absolutely making a pig's ear of the football aspect. And so you can't constantly keep patting him on the back, which I'm guilty of myself, for doing the appropriate things where the financial side of things are concerned, but then completely letting the ball drop. Like, what are we supposed to do now coming into this next season if he's not willing to loosen the purse strings? And he's saying what we've been told now, and again, I don't always listen to the media, but we've been told now that he's looking for a manager that's going to come in long term. And why does he want long term? Because he wants to spend piecemeal. He's going to spend, maybe there'll be 3 players coming in the summer, maybe 4, but it won't be like we need way more than that at this point, lads, in all seriousness. Yeah. And he's not going to spend the money to do the rebuild in the way that it needs to be done. He's not going to do a Todd Bowley and just throw a load of money at it, but more intelligently, but like that's not going to happen. It's going to be little by little, which is never enough, because then all of the senior players start, ended up needing to get put out to pasture while we're still bringing in new players. And it's like, the finances are not doing us any favors if they're not actually going to use the money. Doing the things that put us in a strong financial position are amazing if you're then going to use the finances, but they don't. So they've got nothing to be patted on the back for.
Look, at the end of the day, I mean, just every decision since sacking Pochettino just stinks of zero ambition at this football club. You can say that's hiring Jose Mourinho and hiring Antonio Conte. You would think that, there is ambition at this football club if you do that. But just to hiring these kind of managers just to appease the fans with only looking for short-term fixes and not even listening to what they want and what they need to take this club forward. I mean, this club and the hierarchy have no ambition whatsoever, and it kills me every single time. But it does bring me nicely on to the next topic, which is, who do you guys want as the next manager? I mean, we're running out of targets day by day. Vincent Kompany signed a new long-term contract at Burnley. Nagelsmann is out the running. Poch has gone to Chelsea. Xabi Alonso could even be staying at Leverkusen for another year. So that kind of leaves us, I'm looking at the odds, it leaves us with Arne Slot, Brendan Rodgers, Thomas Frank, Graham Potter, Ryan Mason, Ange Postecoglou, Ruben Amorim, and Oliver Glasner, and maybe a De Zerbi, which I can't see us getting him out of Brighton. So we'll start
by the way, Dan Kilpatrick just tweeted saying Ryan Mason is increasingly looking like an option for Tottenham.
I knew it. I absolutely knew it. But Dave, what are you thinking? Who do you want as the next manager from that list of names, or maybe a new name you've got?
Look, out of the list of names for me, first of all, I definitely don't want Ryan Mason to get it. He needs to go and play his trade elsewhere. He needs to develop as a coach elsewhere. He got absolutely tactically outdone by Emery, and this was my biggest concern about him getting the job. Once there's more of a bite-sized sample of his tactics and they're analysed a lot more, what questions or what answers has Nagelsmann got or Mason got to that when other managers set up for when his tactics are known? And for me, I don't think he has that, as proven against Aston Villa. Emery literally told him, I'm going to take Potter out the game in his pre-match press conference. We had no answer to it. We still persisted with Ben Davies on the left. So that, for me, just shows that Mason isn't good enough. And you should be very careful always hiring a manager off a caretaker sample, purely because it's very easy for them players to pick themselves back up and gather a couple of results to make it look like it's the previous manager's problem, like we've seen at Tottenham for the last 3-4 years. Every manager that comes in here initially starts off well, and then it tails off because senior pros that have been here quite some time don't fancy it anymore, or we've done a lot of recruitment there. The next one's out the door. They take their foot off the gas. That manager sacked. Who's the ones that benefit? Them players. For me, look, who do I want? I think Postecoglou or Amorim for me. Postecoglou has done an absolute brilliant job at Celtic. So he has. I was listening to Joe Hart do the Ben Foster podcast the other day, and he was speaking about, the job that Postecoglou has sort of done at Celtic, and this guy is an absolute brilliant man manager. That's what he's all about. He actually came from the J League with zero coaches or anything else, purely worked with what Celtic had in place in the background, and look at the job that he's managed to get out of all them people there. He hasn't gone in there and spent masses of amounts of money. The money that he has spent, he spent very, very wisely. And them Japanese boys that came over, that's from him. That's his recruitment. He's the one that put them on the radar, and they've done a very good job for him. And when he first came into Celtic, Celtic fans were very uninspired. They didn't know sort of what was going on. The media were absolutely caning them, but very, very quickly, Postecoglou has sort of turned them around. So for me, I think he would be a good choice at Tottenham. However, I have my doubts over the experience at maybe a top level. You got to remember, this guy has only sort of had the Australian League, the Australian national team, the J League, and then onto Celtic at Scotland. So I think I would rather him over an Arne Slot, for example. I think he has more chance of making that step up to the Premier League than someone like Arne Slot. But look, I really like Cameron at Sporting. When he first came in, he had to get rid of a lot of sort of the old guard that were there for quite some time, which we need to do this summer. He brought in a load of sort of new players. For instance, Pedro Gonçalves, who Spurs have sort of been rumoured with. You've got Paulinho, who ended up going to Fulham. You've got another midfielder that went to Wolves. And a lot of that recruitment that he brought in when he first came in has actually been really, really good recruitment that have since gone out elsewhere. He's also brought Marcus Edwards over there as well, and seems to be getting a tune out of him, which we failed to do. And since he's joined there, he's won League Cup after League Cup after League Cup. He's already got trophies to his names. I like his tactics. He plays on the front foot football. He has a good pressing plan as well. He has a number of ways of pressing opposition into areas of the pitch where we can take the ball off him. So for me, tactically astute, I would go with Amarim. If you want a good man manager that's going to come in here and sort of galvanise everyone and get them the one way, Postecoglou.
Adam, who are you looking at?
Feeling where I'm like, if some of these guys come in, I have a very hard time wanting to tune in to any sport next season at all. Like if Brendan Rodgers, for example, or Graham Potter comes in, I'd find it so difficult to work up the enthusiasm it would take to sit and watch what would unfold as a result of that. It's not an ideal situation, definitely not. I think that we can all agree on that, but I think I'd rather have Ryan Mason there over those kinds of managers, simply because even though he's still earning his stripes, at the end of the day, guys, to be fair to him, he is one of our own. He bleeds lily white. He is very good player, very good friends with a lot of the players, to the degree that maybe they will put in a better shift for him next season if he gets to indoctrinate them with his particular brand of football that he wants to play. Obviously, he's been working under Stellini and Conte in recent months, and so he hasn't really been able to embed his particular personal philosophies into the team. So perhaps he'd be able to do that with a lot of the players there being quite fond of him. And I just think that as much as that's still not the ideal, I would probably be more eager to see that than some of the managers that you did list off. In terms of the ones that I would be a bit more optimistic about, I really like Sporting, and I really like what Amaring is doing there. So I think I probably could have a bit of a skip in my step if I found out that he was coming to Tottenham. Also, another one, when you guys did the show the other day, Sim, you were going through some of the strengths and weaknesses of the managers, and you mentioned I think it was you that said that you were somewhat positive on Xabi Alonso, right? That there are benefits to have coming into the club. So I don't know if you want to reiterate some of his strengths, but he's one person as well that I think, I could probably get behind that a little bit. I don't know. I think that maybe I used to love this guy back in the day, so I think I'm a little bit on the biased side in this regard. This is a name that hasn't been mentioned, and I'm probably going to get absolutely slated for this. But I loved Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he used to play back in the day. And to be honest,
No. What are you talking about?
I know. Look, when you compare what he did with United at a time when they were on a downturn to what Erik ten Hag is doing now, there's not actually a significant amount of difference. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was able to get Manchester United a really, really slow falling apart Manchester United to second place in the league. I think again, I've said this before on a few different channels. It's the romantic in me that sometimes just completely leans in a really bizarre direction, because I just think there's a poetry to football, and there would be something about him coming to Spurs that I'd be like, I could get behind it. But I know that's just a completely wild, left field, unrealistic, and
That's more than
opinion.
left field, Adam.
It's on a completely different field altogether. But no, it's just something that was kind of in my mind that I wanted to throw out there. But I think like of all the realistic options, I think I'd be because I don't watch enough of the football that's played in other leagues for me to really know the ins and outs of each manager's style of play and how they've been getting on. But definitely the ones that have interested me most in terms of what I've heard from, especially from you guys breaking it down, and from what I have seen of Sporting playing, I like Ruben Amorim, and I think Xabi Alonso is someone that I'd have my head turned.
Can I just come in on something that Adam said there about Ryan Mason and that? Like, for me, when I look at that Ryan Mason situation, there's plenty of managers out there in and around his age that have far more experience than what Ryan Mason does. Just because he's one of our own, it doesn't make him anywhere near good enough for the job. Harry Winks was one of our own. Where did that get us?
Yeah.
We at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to call a spade a spade. And look, I'm not putting what's happening on Ryan Mason. I don't think, even if we don't make Europe, Ryan Mason shouldn't be blamed for this, because it's not his fault at the end of the day. No manager is ever going to work at Tottenham Hotspur until they get the investment they need. We plug the holes in the squad we need. No manager is actually going to work at Tottenham, so I don't blame Ryan Mason, but the reality is he's just not good enough for the job. There's no real past experience there to give him that job, and I believe if they give him the job, they're making a rod off their own back. 90% of the fan base will not accept that. You might have the 10% who will be okay with it, because again, he's one of our own, this, that, and the other, but he's not good enough. He's nowhere near it. He's going to be tactically found out, Yeah. And at the end of the day, we don't need someone that's going to come here and butter these players up and high-five them and do all these little stupid things that they were doing under the Pochettino era. You don't need that. What you need right now is a manager that comes in here that's given full control. So if a player walks into his office, for instance, Danny Rose or Ben Davies, like the documentary, or like under Nuno in Davies' case, where they walk in and say, why am I playing? The manager gives them the answer. And they should not be able to turn around and go, I don't like that, I'm going up to see Daniel. That should not happen. No manager is ever going to survive when that's the case, because how can he assert any power over anything that's going on? If you've got players who are only coming to them out of courtesy, but realistically, they're just going to go straight to the top anyway. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Ryan Mason. They're going to walk all over this guy. They're going to use and abuse that friendship and turf him out exactly when they're ready to. For me, what you need to do is you need to bring in a manager and give him the power. And the final buck stops with him. No more of these players going up to Daniel Levy if they don't like the answer why they're not playing. Accept the answer why you're not playing. Either go and work on it or push for a move out of this club. No longer can we let some of these guys hang around. And, they're just going to absolutely abuse Ryan Mason's friendship. For me, if he gets the job, he'll be sacked within, 3-4 months, in my opinion, and that'll be the end of Ryan Mason at Tottenham. Let this guy go out. Don't screw up. We've already screwed up enough young players' careers at this football club, etc. Don't screw up a young manager's career. Let him go out, develop himself, see how he gets on, and then in the future, if he's done good wherever he's gone, he can throw his name in the ring for the job in the future. Your Tottenham job is always going to be there for someone like him in the future. So let him go out and develop himself. We don't need to rush into giving it to him just because he's one of our own and our players want everyone to be friends with them. Sometimes you just need a manager to come in here and have full control. Sometimes you need them to be able to assert their dominance and get reactions out of players in another way, out of fear, rather than them being buddies with them. And that's what needs to happen. That's why I don't want Mason anywhere near the job. So many other managers out there around the same age that have better experience.
Look, Dave, I completely get where you're coming from saying Mason isn't good enough for the job. I mean, that's clear for everyone to see. He's a brand new manager, hasn't been in the role, very young, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at it, right, who is good enough for this role? Antonio Conte weren't good enough for this role. Jose Mourinho weren't good enough for this role. Nuno weren't good enough for this role. And by the end of it, Poch weren't good enough for this role either. So unless the hierarchy start acting differently and start giving them the managers what they need to progress in the role, then what's the point of going out there looking for managers? May as well appoint within and vibe it out until we can get something better from this hierarchy, because nothing better is coming from any particular manager, in my opinion. So I genuinely think it doesn't matter what manager now we bring in. If the hierarchy ain't going to change, the same results are going to keep coming back over and over and over again. So why keep burning good managers? May as well stick it out with Mason until something better can come about.
Yeah, but then you're burning him.
You're burning. Yeah, but he loves the club. You know what I mean? He's Tottenham
That
through and
could go
through.
either way. I think that could go either way, though. I agree with all of Dave's statements. I do think that at the end of the day, it's entirely probable that if Mason stays on, that he's not going to get the chance to go and flourish somewhere else, become even better, come back and bring his lily white heart to, with all the new experience, to do incredible things with the team. I think he's dead on, but it could go the other way. And I think that as much as there's a possibility that the players will run roughshod over him because of the fact that he is too friendly with them. Excuse me. The other side of things, it could be that because he's that close with them, that they could go that extra mile for him. And I don't believe for a second that he is the best option, but I do. All I was saying was that he's definitely a better option over some of the other guys that were brought up. Even one that was brought up by myself, he's still a better option than some of these guys. And I think that David, just on the comment, I wouldn't necessarily compare him to Harry Winks, because I do think that Ryan Mason has shown a large degree of talent. He might not be ready for Spurs for a job of that has that much weight on his shoulders, but he has shown a degree of talent. Harry Winks shouldn't be playing football. Harry Winks is an absolute waste of space. Ryan Mason had at least the stones and the tactical nous to bring in Emerson Royal as the right-sided centre-back and be able to switch from a 4 at the back to a 3 at the back on a dime. And I've been asking for him to be playing in that position for a very, very long time. So to make that kind of decision, to have Emerson Royal and Porro both playing on the right, so you have the possibility, you have both the strengths of the two of them, the defensive and the offensive strengths of the two of them playing at the same time. That was a very, very smart move, a shrewd move, and one that Conte and Stellini wasn't making. And they weren't making that.
Yeah, but we can sit here and say they didn't make them. Look at the injuries we've had. They haven't always had the option to make them choices. Romero was injured for a large part up until the World Cup, so you couldn't play that back three with him being injured. Lenglet's been injured at times this season and stuff like that. So we haven't always been able to put that out there. Now, I'm not making an excuse for like a Conte and people like that. Yes, they could have tried it. I believe many fans would have wanted them to try it. But the reality is, we went to a back four against Newcastle, and look what happened. Now we have to play a flexibility between sort of teams. But the reality is, it was a one game off against Palace. We've still conceded goals against Liverpool, still conceded goals against United, still conceded goals on Saturday against Aston Villa. So the back four, his system isn't exactly working either. And I agree with you, Ben, on what you're saying about what manager is going to work if we're not giving them everything to succeed. Fully agree with you on that, Ben. But the reality is, we can't sit here and pretend that Jose Mourinho didn't use all of his experience to keep us up where we were at the time. It would have been worse if it was a Mason in charge. You can't pretend that Conte hasn't come in here and used his experience and was able to get us top four and stuff like that Mason doesn't have. Mason will be found out in the dugout next year. So although I hear you where it's like, oh, look, if we're not going to give the managers what they want, just give it to Mason. But the reality is, Daniel Levy knows what he's doing. He's relying on the experience of a Conte and a Jose. And that's why, even though they're not going to get what they want, it's still important to bring them in here, because if not, we will be a relegation candidate team.
Yeah, but Dave, the fact of the matter is that we've burnt those experienced managers. We don't have any of those experienced managers left. Anyone with half a brain cell is going to question coming to Tottenham Hotspur right now. And the only ones that are not going to question coming to Tottenham Hotspur are ultimately going to probably be yes men and fall on their sword in 6 to 18 months' time and come out the job anyway. So I don't see what the difference is.
Well, I guess the point is, if we want to appoint a manager who's proven that he can get a team with not little resources, but less resources than maybe is required to get their team playing in a certain way with a certain philosophy of playing football and get that philosophy to be successful. And maybe someone like an Arne Slot, who at Feyenoord has done very well as an Alkmaar, he's now won a league with Feyenoord. He's now also semi-proven anyway in the European stage. He got his team to a Conference League final in his first season. He was a minute away from getting his team to Europa League semi-final as well. This is a team come from the Dutch league, which they haven't won a league title in quite a long time as well. Like, I think that's the maybe next step for Tottenham if we're going to move forward. We need a manager who can get even like look at De Zerbi, how he's got Brighton playing with the investment. Obviously, he's very clever, smart recruitment, but they haven't invested like hundreds of millions of pounds to get all these amazing players. It's better coaching within what we've got, and that's what we need. And when it comes to Ryan Mason, I just think in terms of a club putting their eggs in a basket for a manager who the fans can buy into, can actually have a long-term future in the club. I just think the first sign of trouble, I'm not saying the fans will like turn on him, but I think we're already going into this with the fans not believing that he's right for the job right now, and that it's too early for him right now. And I think at the first sign of trouble, it's going to just play into that narrative. So if you want to go to say to that Arteta route and say, look what Arteta did with Arsenal, why can't we do that Mason? Well, Arteta in his first or second season went on an 8-game losing streak, and they stuck by him. Are we going to stuck by Mason if he goes on an 8-game losing streak? Absolutely no chance. We'll chuck him aside. He won the FA Cup, but I'm saying if he also went on an 8-game losing streak, and then and they stuck by him when the pressure was mounting, and the pressure would be absolutely massive. Sorry?
The board stuck by him. The Arsenal board stuck by him. I don't think the fans did. The fans were calling for Arteta.
I'm talking about the board. I'm not talking about the fans. Yeah, I'm saying would the fans stick by him? Would the board stick by Mason if he went on an 8-game losing streak? I don't think they would. I don't think they would. Because I think it plays into the narrative that he's not ready, this job is too early, and all these different things.
The board don't stick by anyone. That's the problem. We need to be giving managers time to implement their ideas. We need to be giving them power to bring in who they want to bring in and upgrade in positions that we need to upgrade in, and not keep going for third and fourth options every single time. And ultimately, every single manager is going to die on that sword here at Tottenham Hotspur until things change.
Also, I question whether Mason, personality-wise, will because there's such a lot to do with this rebuild right now. There's so much work to do. He's going to have to be quite kind of cutthroat. He's going to have to be very demanding with the board as well. And does he have that personality to be that person? I mean, from what I can see from him, like how he conducts himself at press conferences, obviously he comes across well. But does he come across as a guy who's going to be ruthless when he needs to? I mean, I do question that. I don't know. I don't know if he's at that stage yet. He's still very early on in his coaching career. I know he's been coaching for a long time, and maybe when he has the authority of having that top job, maybe his mentality will change. But I don't see a guy who's ready to take on the size of the job that we have available to us and actually take it on with both hands and be successful here. And I don't even know tactically whether he's up to it. That is just up for question. No one can really know that, whether tactically he has a philosophy that's really gonna that first of all that Tottenham fans can buy into. But that's one thing. But another thing is whether it can be successful and whether it's something that can work. We don't know that. But at least with these other managers who have managed other clubs like a Slot or even a Xavi Alonso, what he's doing right now, even a Graham Potter. I mean, I would still put Graham Potter in the ring, in my opinion, despite the fact he failed at Chelsea. I really would, because I think the Chelsea job was an impossible job. I don't think many managers would have lasted this season, to be honest. Even him, he's got a way of playing which I think the fans can buy into, and I think that the players have mentioned before how they've always been so impressed whenever they come against Brighton under Graham Potter, and how hard they are to play against and how they play attacking football and stuff like that. They have a way of playing that we know can improve teams, but we just don't know about that, Mason.
On that, Tim, if Pochettino goes into Chelsea now with the exact same team that Potter had, and he actually does incredible things next season, does that not mean that Graham Potter is not fit for purpose?
I wouldn't say so, no, because what Pochettino's going to have is he's going to have absolute capability to and be ruthless to say who he wants to keep and who he doesn't. What basically Chelsea did with Potter is, first of all, they had a whole summer where they signed about 8 or 9 players in the summer, like Sterling, Aubameyang, Fofana, whoever they signed in the summer. So that was a whole rebuild they did. And then they had a second rebuild in January. They signed about 10 players in January. So they basically dumped a whole load of players on Potter and said, here, you got to deal with this. And they said the changing room was too big. Now Pochettino is going to have a whole pre-season to manage who he's got available, and he's going to be able to cut for it and manage the squad so it's manageable going to the season. So he has a squad of players he can work with going forward, and he doesn't have to deal with 10 or 12 unhappy players, because when you have a match day squad of 18, you've got literally 12 or 13 unhappy players every single week who are causing a bad atmosphere. It was impossible for anyone. It was especially for Potter as well, the first big job. But I think for any manager, it would have been impossible to have a successful season under those conditions. I think even the players themselves realise it was absolutely ridiculous, the situation they've been put in. And I think Pochettino will still have a difficult time, but he'll have a more manageable time with picking the players and having a more manageable squad for next season, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, when it comes to Potter, I mean, I don't want him anywhere near the football club. Both of these clubs have both struggled to score goals, and for me, that's a big flaw in his tactics. You look at Brighton, you can sit here and say the strikers. The reality is, he went through about 10 different strikers there. Not one of them can find the back of the net regularly. You look at Chelsea, okay, yeah, you would say their scoring problems have sort of continued, but for me, it's a big flaw in his game. But like the reason why we've got to get this managerial appointment right is you got to just look around at the caliber of the manager in the Premier League nowadays. You've got Jurgen Klopp, you've got Pep Guardiola, you've got De Zerbi, who's proven to be able to handle himself. You've got Lopetegui, Unai Emery, you've got that Lego head at Arsenal. You've got Eddie Howe there. You've got Silva at Fulham. You've got some very tactically astute managers in the Premier League now. And for me, you got to look at it as the manager that we're bringing in here. Can he survive with them tactically? Ryan Mason won't be able to. He just will not be able to survive with them tactically. And if you put him in charge, you're not going to finish in the top half of the table, because as much as it is getting the right team out there and having a good style of play, also your tactics have to be spot on. And he will be found out. And for me, that's why this next appointment has to be absolutely spot on. It's got to be someone that can survive around all these other managers. But most importantly, you just got to back the guy. Like, the thing is, we sit here, we say Mourinho was the wrong appointment, Conte was the wrong appointment. No, they were the right appointments, the right direction and everything else. But you can't do it half-heartedly. You've got to go full on at it. And that's our biggest problem, is never actually giving everyone the finished product, all the tools they need. Like Jose Mourinho, we left him flapping about with wingers. No real enough wingers there. Antonio Conte, you left him without any sort of defenders. And it's like, right appointments, we've just done wrong by them. So, why can't we still go after them sort of guys, but just back them properly, back them with what they need, instead of bringing them in for their expertise and going to, saying, look, we want you for your expertise. Like, you got to understand, with them expertise, you also have to give them the players to be able to implement that. Instead, we bring them in here for their expertise. Then we go to them, no, you've done everything wrong. You're going to do it our right way. And the manager's sitting there scratching his head. He goes, I mean, like, in Conte's case, I've just won a Serie A. Jose Mourinho's case, I've won 25 trophies. You can't tell me I'm doing it wrong. And this is the problem. This is where lies the problem. A manager will work out at Tottenham, and a lot of our appointments have been the right appointments. We've just done wrong by them.
Yeah, it's absolutely spot on, Dave. That is absolutely spot on. And let's be honest, I mean, Ryan Mason probably fits this squad to a T. I mean, we all heard what all those words Conte said. These players can't hack the pressure. They don't like to play under pressure. Well, Ryan Mason don't like pressure either, apparently, like he said in his press conference only a few weeks ago. I don't like the word pressure, all this kind of stuff. So I think he just suits this squad to a T. But before we move on to the next subject, we're just going to go around the room and just say one name who you want. We'll start with you, Dave.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go Amorim.
Amorim. Adam?
I did want Pochettino or Nagelsmann, but now I have to settle I have to change my targets. So I'll go Amorim.
Adam?
Yeah, exactly the same. Pochettino was the right answer. Nagelsmann was the one, that was basically the best option if we weren't going to go for Poch. Now both of those are off the table. Yeah, Amorim is the best of. But again, it's you wouldn't feel like you were getting your number one, but. Yeah, I suppose
that's for sure.
Left,
I think we can safely know that we're not getting our number one. That's for sure. But Sim, who are you going for?
I'm going to go Arne Slot.
Arne Slot. I'm also going Arne Slot, to be honest. So it's a 2-on-2. Amorim against Arne Slot. So let me know in the comment section who would you prefer, Arne Slot or Amorim? Go on, Dave.
Arne Slot, Scott Munn and Daniel Levy all standing beside each other. You won't be able to tell the difference, lads.
It'll be Levy managing the team, that's for sure.
Oh, God. All right, cool.
Do a poll. Someone says do a poll.
Yeah, go on. Set the poll up while we move on to the next topic. But we are going to put up a poll, either Amorim or Arne Slot. Let us know who you prefer. I mean, I think my actual number one would be De Zerbi. I just don't think we can get him out of Brighton. I think that's just an impossible task, to be honest.
Oh, the way he was played football, man. I was watching them yesterday. Was just an
unbelievable.
absolute delight.
absolutely unbelievable. But the
Is he
last,
not Enrique anymore?
Sorry, just quickly, it is worth noting that even though if we want Amorim, it is going to cost us, I believe, 30 million to be able to get him out of there. Because they actually originally paid for him and then he signed a sort of a new contract and that went up to 30 million. So there'd be a heavy fee for Amorim.
you about to say something, Adam?
No, just wondering if anyone still has Luis Enrique as a someone that they're very interested in bringing in. It probably another similar appointment to Conte though, right? But
yeah, I've always rated
quiet,
Luis
hasn't
Enrique as a manager, but I just don't think he's a right fit for Tottenham. I just don't think it will work, and I think it will just go the exact same way as Jose went, the exact same way as Conte went. So it's a no from me for Luis Enrique. But I want to move on to this next topic. Last one on the manager one, and it's about Mauricio Pochettino. We got the here we go from Chelsea. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. And it really, really broke my heart seeing that. And I want to put the question to you guys. Is Poch now considered a traitor at Tottenham? Is he a Judas? We'll start with you, Adam, on this one.
absolutely not. There's no way you could put him in the same, like, because when we talk about Judas, we know exactly who we're talking about, right? Like there's one man who makes all the bile in your body want to spill out of your mouth, and it's Sol Campbell, and what that man did was run down his contract to the degree that we couldn't even make any money off him before he went to the worst possible side that he could have gone for. That is the definition of a Judas. As far as Pochettino is concerned, first of all, as much as for the last while, Chelsea have been more of an obstacle for us than Arsenal have been, they're still not our top rivals. But also, you've got to look at the fact that Poch was waiting around for us. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If there's a guy who's hanging around waiting for the love of his life to come back to him, and she just keeps saying no, and there's a beautiful woman down the street who's eyeing him up, at some point he has to go, right, I just can't wait any longer. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't. We've forced Poch into that scenario, because Chelsea are regardless of what we want to say about them, they're a golden opportunity for any manager, especially given the money bags that they've got. If they just have someone with a bit of sense come in and take the bull by the horns, that team can easily go on to win the league next year. And so, Poch cannot turn down that opportunity when he has been sitting around waiting for us. He has. He's made it very, very, very clear that if we had come calling, he would have immediately come straight back to Spurs, and we didn't do it. And it's all thanks to the plonkers at the top of the hierarchy, at our club. So I don't think it would be fair at all for anyone to hold it against Pochettino. If it was Arsenal, yes, look, they are our ultimate rivals. If he went there, that's just not on. But as
Adam,
much as
Poch said Chelsea were bigger rivals to us than Arsenal at the time when he was here.
At the time, yeah. But that being said, it's still, in our heart of hearts, we know who our ultimate, arch enemy is. And again, it's very, very different when you throw the term Judas around. I mean, that's one of the most despicable things you can call someone. So you better bloody deserve it. And 100% Sol Campbell is the definition of the word, and I don't think Pochettino should be considered in the same ilk whatsoever. Not even close. Not when he would have come back to us in a heartbeat, and we just wouldn't do it.
Dave?
No, I think it's very hard to sort of call him a Judas, harsh, to be honest with you. Look, you can't expect this guy to put his whole career on hold for us. The reality is, Adam said, he's been waiting around for us. We could have done it when we sacked Pochettino, we didn't. We could have done it when we sacked Stellini, we didn't. And even when it was put out there in the news that he was going to sign for Chelsea the next day, it's still been rumbling on for a week or so. He's left us an opening window to be able to swoop in and take that deal off him and bring him to Tottenham Hotspur. We have failed to do that. And for me, you can't put this on Pochettino. Now, look, I'm not one of them where I wish him to go and win everything, because I don't want that. In fact, I want it to fall flat on its face. He gets sacked, and we just realise we're wrong and bring him in here. But it's not his fault. He can't put his whole football career on hold for Tottenham Hotspur. The reality is, they're never going to bring him back here under this ownership. Why? Because once you do, especially if you haven't got Tottenham into gear in between then everyone will be, the first thing they'll do, it undermines their position, because everyone will be questioning. well, that was a big waste of money that we spent on recruitment. Why don't we just let Poch do it if we're going to bring him back here to do it now? You know, that was a load of money we wasted on managers and all their staff and paying them off and everything else. Because why don't we just do it with Pochettino and keep his guys here in the first place? So they will never, ever, ever bring him back here as long as they're there, because it undermines them and it gives more and more people to make noise about them, protest about them, and get them out. It makes them look more and more incompetent. The fact that Pochettino actually wanted to commit to us when he didn't have to. There were so many other jobs he could have left in the meantime to go to, nearly any job in the world. So they're never, ever going to bring him back here while they're here. That's just the reality of it. And on that, I don't blame Pochettino. It's not his fault Daniel Levy doesn't have a set of balls on him and he doesn't come out and say, do you know what? I got it wrong. I apologize. We should have done this the first time round. We're going to get him in now and we're going to take it seriously. That's not Pochettino's fault. That's Levy's fault. The question should be, is Levy to do this, not Pochettino?
I think we already know our feelings on Daniel Levy. But no, I understand where you're coming from. And I kind of like agree that it's not, Pochettino is not a Judas, and Pochettino, you know, I understand his decision to go to Chelsea, I really do. But there's always going to be that part of me that thinks, oh man, you can't be doing this, you can't be managing Chelsea. Like, what are we supposed to think seeing him in that opposition dugout at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, going to Stamford Bridge at his home stadium? I mean, it's going to make me sick to my actual stomach, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it, to be honest. So for me, Pochettino, as long as he's in that job, he's completely dead to me. He's no Tottenham legend. He's no legend of mine. As soon as he enters that role, he's completely dead to me, in my opinion.
Let me ask you a quick question, Benji. Do you think Levy would have got more slack if we would have brought him back, or do you think he'll get more slack for just leaving and go to Chelsea unchallenged?
Letting him go Chelsea unchallenged. For sure.
Yeah. But for me, from how I see it, is like there's only so many times we can spit in his face before he becomes unloyal to us. Like the guy, we sacked him after he gave us regular Champions League football. He consistently overachieved, and we had hit a bit of form, but because we had continual low investment, or we went 18 months without signing a player, for not long before he was sacked. We sacked him 3 months after, or something, 4 months after a Champions League got us to a Champions League final. We literally jumped at the first chance we had to sack him. Essentially, that was literally the first chance we had to sack him, and we did sack him when we jumped in and got Jose Mourinho. Yeah. So we absolutely showed no loyalty to him at that point. We then didn't hire him back when we had numerous opportunities to really to jump at a chance to hire him back. He has said continuously on interviews that he has unfinished business at Tottenham. He would love to come back to Tottenham and try and win something and finish what he started. It's the club of his heart. He has a strong affinity to Spurs. He didn't have to say all of that, but he did on an interview not even that long after he got sacked. He was saying that on BT Sport. So he was saying all this, and yet we have had so many chances to go back in for him, yet we haven't made the phone call. We haven't even had a conversation with him to see if he'd be interested in coming back. And it's not like we have great options. We're talking about Arne Slot. We're talking about Brendan Rodgers. We're talking about managers who probably aren't going to come here.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
We're talking about managers who, let's be honest, don't hold a candle to Mauricio Pochettino right now in terms of high status in the game, in terms of what they've done, in terms of what we know they can do. They don't hold a candle to Pochettino. Yet we're still, even at this stage, not calling him back. So how many times is he going to get spat on in the face by this club, not by the fans, by the way, by the hierarchy, before he says, look, I've got no choice here, I'm going to go to Chelsea. Yeah. So I absolutely don't blame him whatsoever. A part of me is obviously going to be like, you can't go to Chelsea, they're our biggest rivals, how can you do this to us? It's going to hurt the fans so much. And yes, there is a bit of a disregard in that fact, but like, what is he supposed to do? Just put his career on hold because Tottenham keeps spitting in his face? Spot on. That's the reality.
There is an appropriate middle ground. There's an appropriate middle ground, isn't there, in fairness? Because it's like, should we be happy for Poch? No. Should we want him to go and be successful at Chelsea? No. Should we ever want him to come back to Tottenham now that he's gone to Chelsea? No. Should we? Can we say, even go so far as to say he's dead to me? I think there's there's legitimacy to having that sort of feeling because he has gone to somebody else who, he's broken our hearts as fans. Can he ever be called a Tottenham legend? Now, Absolutely not. Not when he's done that. But is he a Judas was the question. And there is only one Tottenham Judas, and we all know exactly who that is.
I think that's spot on.
The thing is, though, there's been a lot of sort of crossover between Chelsea and Tottenham in the past. People still call Glenn Hoddle a Tottenham legend. You know, he was manager at Chelsea there for a little bit. You know, we've also had 3 ex-Chelsea managers in this door, so there's been a bit of a crossover. You got to realise, look,
Jimmy Greaves played for Chelsea.
Who?
Jimmy Greaves.
Yeah. There you are. You know, but like we gotta realise Pochettino is at the top of his game now. Well, he ain't waiting for David Moyes to be sacked at West Ham to take that job. You know, he ain't going to take Southampton job even though they've gone down. And the reality is, some of our rivals are up in and around the top 6, and that's what job was available to him. I can't blame him for that. He's not going to turn around and sit there and go, what does he do? I'm going to wait for Liverpool. He doesn't know when Jurgen Klopp's going to get sacked because they're backing him again. He ain't going to wait for Guardiola to be sacked because you don't know how long he's going to be there. Ten Hag's only took over United and got Arsenal in a title race, so he ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So if Poch wants to manage in the Premier League, that's the only option that was available, here or Chelsea. We didn't contact him. It ain't his fault. And I don't think anyone should really be getting too upset with it. Arsenal's our real rivals. Chelsea, you know, invented this rivalry because they don't want a rivalry with Fulham because they're shy. You know, that's the harsh reality of it. You know, that is the harsh reality of it. So for me, you can't be angry at Pochettino. Not his fault. And there's been plenty of crossover between the two clubs before. It's Arsenal you don't go to. And that's it for me.
Dave, you quickly mentioned something before while Adam was saying. Adam said, does this completely rule out now return for Tottenham? Adam says yes, but do you agree with that? I think you said no.
Yeah, no, it doesn't rule out return. Why should it? You know, we took Jose Mourinho on and he was at the Chelsea job. Took Conte on, he was at the Chelsea job, knowing what they've said about Tottenham in the past and stuff like that. So for me, I don't ever see a problem with him coming back here. Does it take away from his legacy? No. Reality is he's done a great job for us.
Yeah, no, to be honest, though, when you're looking at history and the managers that we have employed, like, you probably think that it increases his chance of coming here after he does finish at Chelsea, to be honest.
Does it matter, Dave, to you how successful he is at Chelsea? If he really does really well and wins loads of trophies, beats us loads of times, does that change anything for you in terms of whether you want him back?
No, it just goes to show and hammer home even more how we mess things up here at this football club, you know. But look, reality is I don't want him to go there. I don't want him to win a thing. I hope it crashes and burns. I really don't want him to win a thing. However, I just don't blame him. And even if he does have a going boatload of success, fair play to you. You know, you waited around for us. We didn't take you. So you went there and you've done what everyone accused what you couldn't do at Tottenham, which was win trophies. So fair fucks to you.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, I completely agree with what everyone's saying. He was left with no choice. He was waiting around for us, blah, 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 all of that. But the fact of the matter is, the guy is an enemy now. He was once a legend of this football club. And right now, whilst he's in that dugout, he is an enemy of this football club. And that's just the facts of the matter. And you can't get away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, look, he's always going to be a rival while he's at Chelsea. But
not a rival, an enemy.
Well, either or, enemy, rival, they're all the one to me, Benji. They all mean the same thing, to be honest. But look, you know, I love the rivalry in football. You can still have that rivalry, but, you know, if he ever wanted to come back here, I'd take him back in a heartbeat.
It's going to hurt seeing him in blue, though.
It's going to kill me. It's going to kill me. When I got those words, "here we go," from Fabrizio, and it was only 24 hours after that Nagelsmann news as well, it just absolutely broke me, man.
Imagine him winning a trophy and crying that he's won a trophy in England for the first time with Chelsea. I just can't, that image would just be burned in my mind forever.
Just him coming out at that dugout at the Spurs stadium in that tracksuit, that Chelsea tracksuit. It's going to make me sick. Absolutely sick. But look, let's move swiftly on from this because it's just going to cause us all to have nervous breakdowns. But let's talk about the last topic of the day, and it's regarding our 60 million Brazilian striker, Richarlison. 1 goal all season, but he's got more bookings than goals this season for taking off his shirt when he has scored his offside goals. We'll start off with you, Adam, on this one. Do you think that Spurs should cut their losses this summer on Richarlison and sell him?
It's another absolutely not from me, because I think that I find it very difficult unless someone has been an absolute muppet. If someone has had a complete another howler of a first season, I never want to judge a player on their first season. And to be fair too, to Richie, I think that it's very evident when you saw what he was doing at Everton, and single-handedly keeping them from relegation the year before he joined us, and then when you see the performance that he's able to put in when he's played in the right position for Brazil, and when he has creative players setting him up, he's an absolute wonder kid in the things that he's able to do. Going on to next season and beyond, it's entirely likely that he'll be able to have a much better to have better stats as long as he is being played in the appropriate position in the number 9 directly in front of the goal. He could be absolutely smashing goals away, but he keeps being played out on the wing. It's not making any sense to have him where he's been playing, and he's also still bedding in. He wasn't bedding in at Everton when he was banging the goals away because he'd been there for a few seasons. He's not bedding in at Brazil because it's his nation. He's been playing with them for a very long time. So he does need the opportunity to get comfortable. How many players go in? It's not too many players that go into a new team and hit the ground running in their first season. Not everybody is an Erling Haaland. Do you know what I mean? So, and especially when you're not given them the opportunity to thrive in the exact position where you should be in. Harry Kane, if he stays with us, needs to drift back a little bit. He's never been one to play with pace anyway. He's the best passer of the ball that we have in the bloody team. He should be the Kevin De Bruyne. He shouldn't be playing with Kevin De Bruyne. He should be Kevin De Bruyne for Tottenham Hotspur. He should be able to fling balls out left, right, and centre, depending on who he's aiming for, because he can pick out anybody. And Richarlison should be directly in front of him, receiving those balls. And Harry Kane can score screamers from 30, 40 yards out anyway. We've seen it happen. So it doesn't make any sense to write Richarlison off when we've seen the quality he can have for an Everton team that were absolutely muck. They were dross, and he was banging them away. You can't be complaining that it's because he's not getting. He's the kind of player who needs the appropriate service to play well. It's like, no, he was playing for a worse team and he was amazing, but he was played in the number 9. So he hasn't been given that opportunity with us. He's barely being given minutes with us, because that's the other thing. It's all about form, right? He needs to be on the pitch, playing all the time. He's only getting that now in the last few weeks. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, he's been played as a sub. And then any time that he has had at a start, it's been, here, there, and everywhere. It's not been consistent. So he needs to be our starting number 9 with Harry Kane playing behind him, and then we'll see the best out of Richarlison. And I can understand if you're not looking at the all of those different variables, why you might think, oh, he's only scored 2 goals in the Champions League, and so he needs to go because he's not doing it. But he needs to be given the opportunity. It's his first season. We know what he is capable of. He can do it for Spurs, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of echo those thoughts completely, to be honest. I wouldn't want to sell him. I think he is a top talent, but my throwback question to you, Adam, if Kane was to leave this summer, for argument's sake, would you take Richarlison as that Kane replacement?
Oh, there's no such thing as a Kane replacement, man. There's no such thing. He's the most. He's relatively underrated as well. When you look at the likes of Sky Sports and when they do all of these different hierarchies and tier lists and the where they place Harry Kane in the pantheon of the greatest players to ever play the game, especially in the Premier League, he is so ridiculously underrated. He's going to break all the records that possibly exist by the time he's finished playing, as long as he continues to play in the Premier League, and so there is no replacement. So I think it's an unfair thing to put that weight on Richarlison's shoulders. What we do need, he can score goals 100%. He can be the number 9 even if Harry Kane leaves. The only thing is that we'll have to make sure that we play to his strengths, and we bring in players. Players like James Maddison, players like James Ward-Prowse, someone who's able to get the ball to the man exactly where he needs the ball so he can bang it away. Do you know what I mean? And so it depends on, we'd have to build the team around him and bring in some new players, which we need anyway. But it's definitely not a like for like. It's 100% not a like for like, because Harry Kane can do absolutely everything.
Dave, Richarlison or Richarlison out?
Look, I've been very underwhelmed with what Richarlison has produced. I expected a bit more out of him, if you want me to be brutally honest. But, I agree with Adam. There's no point in playing him on the left or the right. He's not a link-up player. He can't do it. He's an out-and-out goal scorer. He's the guy. You put him up front, You get balls in behind, you swing crosses in, let him go and attack it. In fact, you look at some of the goals he's got for us this year. 2 against Marseille, balls into the box. The 1 against Liverpool, balls into the box. That's where Richarlison thrives. That and plus out of possession, getting him to run around and chase it back. But ask playing him on the left or the right, getting him to sort of link up, do 1-2s and stuff, ain't his game whatsoever. So I'd argue that we haven't played to his strengths, but at the same time, Richarlison needs to adapt for what we need him to in certain occasions, and he probably hasn't been able to do that. But, you know, look, there's so much going on at this football club. It's sort of hard for anyone to thrive unless you're Harry Kane, really. You know, you've got no leadership. You've got no manager. You know, you've got no one setting the tone or the stand in the dressing room. You've got a fractured dressing room. So it really is a sort of current situation where it's hard for anyone to thrive. Me, I'm at a point, you've got 2 years when you come to Tottenham. If it doesn't work out in the first year, you've got the second year for us to start seeing stuff. If we don't see anything, get your bags and get out the door. No longer should we sit here and tolerate going into a third, fourth year going, but what if? It's like, look, it's not producing it for whatever reason. It's not working out. So for me, I keep him this summer. And I would even suggest it to him myself personally. This, if I was the manager, you know, you've got this season to make sure this works out. You know, for me, he'd be a handy asset to have in the Europa Conference League if we make it in an FA Cup or League Cup early rounds, providing he stays fit, because at times this season he hasn't been fit when then games have come around. So hopefully that is the case next year, that he's fit. But like I said, he's got one more season for me. Big outlay on him. It's up to him to sort of show us that there is a development in his game. And is he the long-term solution for Harry Kane? Well, nowhere near it. Nowhere near it.
The other benefit of Richarlison as well, though, is like one thing that we always overlook with players quite often is their ability to bounce back from an injury. You have players that take forever to heal, and you have players that are very quick healers. And when we have the likes of Bentancur, who's not even, we're told that he'd be out for the rest of the season. Now we're being told that he's not even going to start next season. You know, there are players that are a liability in that sense. No matter how good they are, if they're going to get injured and be out for a long time, that really stands against them in terms of their their standing within the team and how important they are to stay with us. Richarlison, as often as he might get injured because he puts himself out there, he tends to bounce back, and that's something I think that it's another tick in his box as far as I'm concerned.
David Birkin has a comment saying we signed Richarlison thanks to Sim. Sim brokered the deal. What's your opinion on Richarlison? Yeah,
I was in the negotiation table. I put the contract on the table and I got him to sign. I convinced him. I convinced the whole Tottenham fan base apparently. Anyway, look. As someone who was a massive advocate of his signing at the time and who really wanted him at Tottenham and think he could be a really squad option, I have to say I've been really let down by Richarlison this season. Huh?
Do you think we've overpaid?
We probably did overpay for the quality they were getting, I have to say. I do think there's a lot of circumstances surrounding his underperformance. I think Tottenham have been a mess. I think we've used him really incorrectly as well, playing him on the right-hand side. Probably like 80% of his minutes have all been on the right-hand side, where that's just not his position. He's either off the left or probably more likely up front as well, and we haven't used him in those two positions anywhere near enough. But given all that, to have one Premier League goal to your name, it's not just one Premier League goal. He hasn't looked like scoring more. That's the real disappointment. If he'd been getting chances and maybe his finishing had been off and he'd been getting in the positions and that all right, he'd been beating a few players and it just hasn't come off for him, I can maybe give him more leeway. Fact of the matter is he's been pretty anonymous in a lot of these games. He's literally not looked like scoring. He's been offside 90% of the time whenever he touches the ball. His first touch has been really terrible, and he hasn't got to grips with the way we like to play. And as Adam said, this guy is used to playing in a worse team at Everton, who the chance created is much less than it was at Tottenham. The chances are going to be much less, yet he was still able to dig out himself opportunities and dig out ways to score goals and get in positions where he get in the box, get headers in.
Regardless whether he was 9 or on the left.
Correct. He used to do it both ways.
It's not a positional thing at Tottenham, in my opinion, because he was doing it for Everton on the left.
Not on the right, though.
Not on the right, but he was doing it on the wide areas on the left and up front.
Correct. My point is he's played literally 80% of minutes on the right-hand side where he's not as comfortable as on the left or the centre. But you're absolutely right. He was able to, when he was playing in a worse team, be able to manufacture opportunities for himself, whereas at Tottenham that just hasn't been the case. We haven't seen anything like that. So I've been so disappointed and really frustrated by a lot of his performances. I feel like his quality has been a lot worse in terms of on the ball. I knew that that link-up play and passing the ball and his first touch wasn't his strong suit. I knew that coming into it. But even having known that, I'm still underwhelmed by how bad it is. It is like his passing is atrocious. The amount of times I've seen him try to play Son for on goal and he just overhits it, or it's gone, or it's inaccurate, is astounding. I'm absolutely amazed by how bad his link-up play is. Now, he does have some good dribbling about him, and he has shown that off. And I do think, especially early in the season when maybe he was more confident, I do think the confidence is maybe drained throughout the season. You can see the confidence has dropped out, because I think he started quite well at Tottenham. And as the season's gone on, his confidence has drained even more. And then probably came to a head when after that AC Milan game where he said, oh, it's been a shit season, and he was complaining that Conte said he was going to start him and all that, whatever. But he has to be showing more. He has to be showing more in games, not just goal scoring. His quality on the ball has been nothing short of atrocious. He's been a much bigger flop than even I could have imagined. I have to say that. I mean, you have to call a spade a spade. He's been really bad when he's got the opportunity. And I give him even more leeway, because I give him probably more leeway than most fans, because I acknowledge we've used him wrongly, and that's definitely contributed to it. But even given that, the quality's been so bad.
Using him wrongly, Sim. It's not just using him wrongly. It's the infrequency of using him as well, because you have to get a good run of games in order to be operating at your best, and we've not been giving him good run of games on top of playing him out on the left. And statistically, when he was playing for Everton and he was playing on the left, he was still only getting single-digit goals. He may have been putting up more goals than what he's done for Tottenham, but again, he was playing every single game out on the left, and he was getting single-digit goals. It wasn't until he was moved into the number 9 when he got double digits for them. So he needs to be played in the number 9, and he needs to be playing consistently. And he's been given neither of those things at Tottenham. And literally only over the Christmas we saw how incredible he was playing for Brazil. The guy, I get that his first touch terrible, passing not so good, but give him the ball right in front of goal. Give him the ball where he's got to even when he has to run the yards. As long as he's able to get himself in the middle through on goal, that lad is putting the ball in the back of the net. You just got to give him the run of games to have the confidence, to have the form, and all of that. So I don't think when you see the level he's able to play at for one of the best nations the world has ever seen play football, like they scream his name when he's playing football for Brazil. You know, it's Pombu, Pombu, Pombu all day long. So like, there's no. I don't think that you're going to find too many players that you could replace him with that you're going to be like, oh, this guy's going to has a higher ceiling. Richarlison is still young. He's an incredible goal scorer. It's just those two factors have completely gone against him, in my opinion.
I agree. I would keep him. I wouldn't sell him unless we literally got our money back. I think honestly, I'm just going to say, if we got our money back for him, I would sell him in the summer. I really think
it'd be stupid.
I think if we got 60 million for him, I think we could probably find better quality. And not going to lie, I thought we were getting better quality than we have. But I wouldn't cut our losses in with him. I would stick by him for next season. I do believe with a different manager and also as more regularity, as Adam says, that he can definitely produce better performances. But I mean, let's be honest. If this guy was signed for 5 million and came and we didn't know about him, we'd be saying get rid immediately, wouldn't we? That's the reality. And when he's lucky that he's got a bit of previous in the Premier League.
But also, I take it back to the point where Adam was saying, you know, he needs more game time, he needs more minutes, he needs to get consistent minutes as well. But in my opinion, I think Dan Juma, with the limited minutes that he's had, he's shown more than Richarlison in an attacking sense than Richarlison has since he's come in. I mean, they've scored the same amount of Premier League goals. Dan Juma's had 8 Premier League games, and every single one of them has been basically a few minutes off the bench at the end.
Being played in his perfect position, though, like that he's played.
Not even. Dan Juma's off the left as well.
He's a winger. But he's played both in the games that he's played for us so far. He's operated from the left and from the right on the wing. He's like that is his position, and he's got 2 good feet as well. So I don't think that the only thing standing against him, you're right, is the minutes thing. But at least he's being played where he's supposed to be being played, and he's doing the things that he knows that he does well. Do you know what I mean? He's beating people. He's pacey. He's got strength. He's in the position to utilize those particular qualities. Richarlison when he's being played out on the wing, as you said yourself, he can't pass and his first touch is terrible. If you're out on the wing, those two things can't be, they're going to stand against you every single time. Danjuma has, all the advantages that Richarlison doesn't have. outside of the fact that they're both not being given enough minutes.
The thing is, that's his...
Go on.
No, I was going to say that his problem is because he can't pass and control the ball. I mean, they're the basics of football. Everyone out on that pitch should be able to control the ball and pass the ball. It's the basics. You're never going to get through football without being able to execute the basics. But we sit here and we talk about giving these players regular game time. They have to earn it. You know, if they're getting their minutes and they're not taking them, that's why their game time is reduced. Unfortunately, Richarlison came here knowing he would largely play back up to Harry Kane, that his minutes would be reduced. But it's about taking their minutes when you get them. And he just simply hasn't done that.
How many minutes has he gotten in the number 9?
It really doesn't matter, Adam. When you move to a bigger
give
club,
him the minutes in the number 9.
I hear you. It's not suiting him, right? I get you. But the thing is, when you move to a bigger club, sometimes you're going to be played slightly out of position, but it's up to you to take their minutes and prove that you're good enough to play in your position. And that's how you end up getting minutes in your position, by taking any minutes anywhere where you're put out on that football pitch off the bench. Too long at this football club have we complained about players saying, oh, well, if they get a run of minutes, a run of minutes. But we always miss the trick. They're not taking their minutes, and that's the problem. And he'll never get their minutes up front unless he starts taking the minutes that he's given out wide. The reality is there's no excuse for him not being able to control the ball. There's no excuse for him not to being able to pass the ball. Whether you're a striker or you're playing out wide, you should be able to do that, regardless.
I don't think that's true. I think that we're seeing that even with the likes of Emerson Royal, like when he's being treated like the player that he is, which is an outstanding defender. Suddenly we start seeing him win Man of the Match awards, and the fans start cheering for him, instead of like when we're expecting him to play as a wing forward and he's not able to cross the ball, and he's killing the play because he's not looking up and all these things. You shouldn't be expected as a footballer to have a 10 in every single category of your game. If we bought Trent Alexander-Arnold, brought him to Tottenham and played him in the center of defense, he's going to look like an absolute shambles of a player. And that's just, he's not. He's one of the best players in the sport at the moment. He needs to be playing in an appropriate role. So if you have, like, I'm not saying if people can make the argument that they're not happy with a number 9 who can only run and score and dribble, but he has bad first touch and he can't pass, then if you want to make that argument, fine. If you want someone who has more than that, that's a fine argument to make. But I don't think it's fair to say that Richarlison is not making the most of his minutes when he's being played in a position that goes against everything that he is as a player. If he got minutes in the number 9, that would be different.
I can understand what you're saying. Dave. Sorry, just quickly. I can understand what Adam's saying to a certain degree, but the reality is I can accept it if he's caught out of positioning or he's not creating, right? Because he's not a winger. Let's be honest about it. But not holding up the ball, not being able to trap it, not being able to pass it off 5 yards. I'm sorry. Whether you're a winger, whether you're a striker, you have to be able to do them things. And if you're not even executing the basics, then how is the manager going to have trust to say to you, I'm going to take out my best player and I'm going to trust you to go up there and get the goals? It's not going to happen. Even if you're playing on the wing, you still should be doing the basics right. You still should be executing them basics, and he's just not. And that's on him. That's on nobody else. That's not on having a run of games or anything like that. That's just on him being careless.
Would we be saying that
fundamentals of football?
I agree with you. I definitely agree on those points. But again, if the shoe is on the other foot, Richarlison comes into the club. He's played in the number 9 immediately. We drop Harry Kane to the number 10 behind him. And in his first season, having all the exact same problems and all the exact same qualities, he put 20 goals away. You wouldn't give a shit about the fact that he can't trap a ball, and you wouldn't give a shit about the fact that he can't pass because he scored 20 goals.
It's a knock-on effect. When he has been put through, his touch has been loose, which means it's taken away the chance. You look at Harry Kane, it's out of his feet. He buys himself time with the perfect first touch, and he picks his corner.
Yeah, but you can't compare him to Harry Kane.
That touch has not been there. But that's what he has to get to. That's the reality of it. That we can sit here and make the excuses for him. That's the level he has to get to. That's who's ahead of him in his position.
It isn't
at the end of the day, if he's put through and his first touch is correct, that buys him time to score. The times he's been put through this season, his first touch has been off. It's been to the left or the right, which takes that chance away, which affects his goal tally. That's the fundamentals and basics of football. That is purely on him and nobody else. We can sit here and moan that Harry Kane is what he has to get out. He signed up to it. He clearly thought he could handle that
One
task.
day, not too long from now, Harry Kane is going to hang up his boots. And if we expect any player to come in the door and reach that level when he comes in, that is a weight on someone's shoulders that is going to absolutely crush them. We should not be expecting Harry Kane level performance from any player that walks in the door.
No, I agree, but I do expect them to have a good first touch and bury the ball when they're put through.
Yeah,
The only
true.
thing-
But
the
again,
only
you need
thing-
to run games to get that down.
The only thing I think I disagree with you, Adam, on is the fact that I think you're overplaying for me how unsuited maybe Richarlison is to playing on the wing compared to his more natural number 9 position. Because if you look at the stats from his time in the Premier League, he's played as a striker. He's played in 79 games. He's got 22 goals and 5 assists. As a left winger, he's played 75 games. He's got 20 goals and 13 assists. So he gets more goal contributions as a winger than he has as a striker. So he's definitely a role that he's used to playing. But the way it comes short is as a right winger, he's played 31 games, only 6 goals and 3 assists. So clearly that's his least favoured position. But he has had chances off the left and he hasn't taken them anywhere near where he should. And he's clearly showed in his time in the Premier League, he's definitely more than adept to playing in that position. So for me, he's got to be doing better.
I don't disagree with you. Again, my point initially in the beginning was that I will give, and the same thing, Dave, you said the same thing. You can give any player needs to be given a season to bed in, right? So there's a degree to which the poor numbers for Tottenham, I'm giving him a pass for his first year betting into the team. If he went out and did the same thing next season, I'd be like, okay, absolutely a flop. 100%, no doubt about it, he's gone. It's just, I don't believe that would be the case, given what we saw at Everton and given what we saw at Brazil. I don't believe for a second you put him in the number 9 for Tottenham next season when he's had a year to bed in, and if you give him a run of games, that he's not going to score double digits minimum. And that's bare minimum. I'm expecting way more than that from him, given his level of experience, the fact that he's starting to play at the first team number 9 for Brazil. He's got no excuse not to go on and absolutely smash it next season if he's given the opportunity. But will he be given the opportunity or not is the problem. If he's shown...
He needs to be given the opportunity. You can't spend 60 million on him and just chuck him away after one season, as well as how frustrating he's been. I mean, I've never seen a player that is offside as much as this guy is. I mean, he is just constantly, time and time again, offside. He scored 4 goals for us in the Premier League. 3 of them have been offside. One of them that he did score, he was like inches away from being offside. And that game, last game, I mean, that was just disgraceful. He literally just played offside.
Sonny was doing the exact same thing, though. There's a problem. Like, they played.
Sonny was doing the same thing. He was doing the same thing, but Richarlison has been doing it every single game all season.
Yeah, well, like, again, Sonny is a winger. Richarlison wants to play that bit further forward. He wants to. He's going to be caught offside more than anybody else. Given same way that defenders commit more fouls than anybody else. You play in certain positions, there are certain liabilities that aren't, that you don't get in with other positions and players with different skills. He's fast. He's pacey. He's going to try and run in, and at some point, like more often than not, he is going to end up behind the defender too quickly, and he needs to learn to curl his runs for sure, no doubt about it. But that will only come if he's given more opportunities and given more time playing for the team.
See, also, I think the reason why you're seeing the offside is because he's very eager to score goals right now. He knows that everyone's on his back. They're looking for him to produce, and people just want him to score, right? That's all we want him to do. No one wants him to fail. We all want him to succeed. But the reality is he's not helping himself right now, and that's why you're seeing sometimes the touch being off, the pass and being offside more than what he usually is, because he's so eager right now because of what's gone on this season. He just needs to sort of relax a little, just keep doing the right things, and that moment, them goals will come. But I maintain, he's got to tidy up that first touch and that pass, because a manager that's coming in here playing attacking football, he's going to be his last choice if he can't do the basics.
Would we all agree, though, that we should definitely keep him for at least one more season, unless we were to make more money for him than what we bought him for?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Money back, or give him one more year. That's what I would say.
Yeah. In fact, if Real Madrid were coming in for him, I'd be like, 80 million, not 60. I want 80 million. You guys can afford it. Real Madrid, if you want him that badly, 80 million, and then you can have him. But apart from that, no, he needs to stay and be given another year to take his chances.
All right. Well, I think that brings an end to the panel show today.
Should we read some super chats before we end?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I always forget the super chat. So, yeah, go on.
We'll read the super chats. First one from Nick, Barry, Ranjit, whatever you want to call him.
Something inside so strong.
He says, big up, lads. Things just keep getting worse and worse. Protest 9 a.m. outside the club shop, purple and gold, until Tottenham are sold. Barry is on it.
Big up, Barry.
Adrian Chia says, sadly, poor performance on the pitch overshadowed board mismanagement as it feeds the narrative. Levy is not one on the pitch, hence why blame Levy. So he's saying that in a weird way, the poor performances gives Levy an out because he can't be blamed for how a player plays, I guess is what he's trying to say.
Sorry, I need to read that one again. I don't really get what he's saying.
He's saying that the poor performances on the pitch overshadow how the board have mismanaged the club because they're not the ones playing and maybe they get an out because of it. I think that's a good point. I mean, they should get more
they shouldn't get an out, and I think every fan should be on their case more than anyone else at this football club. That's just the facts of the matter. We don't have a manager. We don't have a sporting director. Even the women's team don't even have a manager. The women's team are about to get relegated. The under-21s got relegated, and the first team are about to could miss out on European football altogether. The whole club from top to bottom is in complete disarray, and that all falls on the management.
Nicholas Walker says, with our last home game on Saturday, do we think Kane will be giving a farewell? I can't imagine he'd leave in the summer without a goodbye. Well, we are giving him a tifo. Is it a tifo?
No, a mural.
A mural. We are giving him a mural for his last game of the home game of the season. So, I mean, that is kind of something you give someone for a goodbye, I have to say. So, hopefully it's not a goodbye, but, I mean, it does seem like they're kind of preparing for it. But I hope I'm wrong. Nicholas Walker again says, Roy Keane would be my choice. Give everyone a kick up the arse. We'll either see great football or great punch-ups. Roy Keane? As two Irish lads, would you open to Roy Keane just ruffling up some feathers at Tottenham?
He wouldn't get 11 at Tottenham out on the pitch. Half of them be hanged up on the coat pegs before they even get out there.
Brilliant. Scorpions Fans for Life says the coach depends on the sporting director, or should. I think that's a great point. We didn't even touch on that, and we should definitely be hiring a sporting director before we hire a coach. So that should go hand in hand. If you want a kind of a fluid strategy from like where everyone's on the same page, sporting director should be coming first. But at the moment, Ali Gold said in his video, it's still unclear who's going to be hired first, the sporting director or the manager, which seems ludicrous to me.
How can it still be unclear at this stage, 50 days, more than 50 days without a manager? How can it still be unclear which direction you want to go in, which sporting director you want to get, which manager you want to get? I mean, the whole thing is a complete mess.
I think the difficulty is that we can't weigh in on it as fans because we're not so kind of clued into as the different types of sporting director, who's out there, what's their repertoire, like what does their portfolio look like. We don't have that kind of knowledge as fans, unfortunately, so we're not able to apply that pressure, ask the questions. It's not as though like we could be just hearing, as we probably are hearing, a load of absolute BS from the media about this manager, that manager, this manager, that manager, because they know we know those names and we're going to click on those links. Whereas if you said John Smith is possibly coming in as a sporting director, are you going to click that link other than to finding out who the heck is John Smith? Do you know what I mean? Like there's no way of generating a kind of a buzz around any names because we don't know anyone. So I think that's the reason why it's pretty dark, in terms of any kind of media coverage on that aspect. There may be stuff going on behind the scenes, but you won't hear anything about it because it's just not clickable.
And last one from IOW saying, giving the job to Mason is like giving an F1 car to someone who just passed their driving test. Shout out to Jamie O'Hara on TalkSport for this quote. Yeah, it's probably a good analogy.
Is it like that? I mean, it's probably more like, because there's no chance Spurs are considered as an F1 club anymore. We're more like F2, F3 or something, riding around on an F1 track. You know what I mean?
Being charged for F1.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're more like. So it's like basically getting someone who's just passed their test, driving an F3 car on an F1 track.
And asking him to win. Asking him to win first place.
Yeah.
And just one thing I'll leave you with as well. Apparently, Nuno Espirito Santo has asked for his contract to be terminated from his club Al Ittihad because he's got a number of European clubs.
He's coming home, people. Nuno
he wants to take the opportunities. I wonder what job he's looking at. Apparently, he's got European
Can you
clubs.
imagine? Can you imagine?
He's our new number one goalkeeper. He's a goalkeeper before, isn't he?
Nuno got a bad rap. You saw how his team played for Valencia. Oh, what football they played, this Valencia team. Get him back.
I loved it when we hired Nuno. We were just trying to find any sort of like evidence that he can play football.
Yeah, it's like, look at this Valencia team for 5 matches. They scored some goals. Get him in.
But look, I think that brings an end to the panel show today. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. Great debut from you today. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to share what I'm doing. Unfortunately, my own channels are obviously not Spurs related. My passion is to do with making movies. I've got a movie out at the moment on Amazon. It's called Follow the Dead. You can check it out on Amazon.co.uk. I'm also in the process of making the sequel for that movie at the moment, and I'm also looking at pitching a few different things to producers. So if you want to see what I'm doing, Wild Stag Media on all the different social media machines and on YouTube. So you can keep an eye on what I do in my personal life, or if you're just into films. But as far as Spurs are concerned, I'll just keep slutting myself around these channels, and I appreciate you having me on here, guys, because it's been a while since we've had an opportunity to have a good chinwag. And even under the dire circumstances, it's always good to have a chat with you guys. So thanks very much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, Dave. I think everyone knows you by now. I think you're on the channel every single week anyway, but tell people what's coming up on your great channel this week.
I suppose we'll be having one of you on tomorrow if one of you are available in around 6 o'clock for an hour. And then after that you'll find out what's coming up for the rest of the week. But get over there, smash the subscribe button, why not? Thanks for having me back, lads. Great to be here with Adam as well. And maybe just a quick apology to the We Are Tottenham TV viewers. I know I haven't been on as regularly as I was once before, maybe this year. But, I've had a lot going on in the background and stuff like that. But next year, you're going to get double dose the Irish Hotspur.
Come on, that's what we love to hear. Come on, Dave. That is what I'm talking about.
Do you want to hear the results of the poll just before
we leave? What's the results of the poll?
Who do you want as next manager? It was Slot, Amorim or other. We have 42% go for Slot, 14% go to Amorim, and 44% go to other. So
who is this other? I think we should get him in.
Get him in, yeah, 100%.
All right, well, big up everyone. Everyone go subscribe to the Irish Hotspur. I didn't mention the channel name, but I think you know it by now anyway. But thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.